I mentioned like the resume and all this stuff, things not working out. And I ended up on the streets, living on the streets.
Like homeless.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Not like maybe pretending like, I'm sleeping on the train tonight. There was just nowhere to go. And, but I always spoke to Hashem. I always spoke to Hashem.
Welcome back to another episode of Inspiration for the Nation. And I sit down with one of the Jewish world's biggest artists, Meilech Kohn. There's a lot of Jewish singers, but not all of them are Jewish artists, and Meilech is. I spoke to him about his very challenging childhood. We talk about abuse. We talk about drugs. We talk about him leaving the life of being an observant Jew. And we talk about him coming back. We talk about teshuva. We talk about finding himself. We talk about the wild stories that he has and the very interesting careers that he has had. And we talk about his music and how it helped him and saved him and his connection to God that he never gave up on. This episode is in memory of Shimon David ben Yaakov Shleima. It is in memory of Miriam Sarah Bas Yaakov Moshe. It is also in memory from a very generous sponsor who loves our show and believes that this show is making a very big impact on people's lives. So he wanted there to be a schus for his family members. It is in memory of Rezel Bas Binyamin Tzvi, Chaim ben Moshe Mordechai Yaakov, Lipa Bas Yirmiyah, and Peril Bas Moshe. Although they are no longer with us, they will never be forgotten, and we hope that this is a schus for the neshamas. This conversation is also powered by one of my favorite shows and favorite statuses, I should say. It's like a show. My favorite groups. You'll hear a lot more about them in the middle of the episode. And I found this conversation very similar to the conversation I had with Lipa, which is by far our most popular Inspiration for the Nation episode. And it's not shocking that I found out that Meilech and Lipa are first cousins. So here is my conversation with Meilech. I'm Yaakov Langer, and you're listening to Inspiration for the Nation. Here I am with Meilech Kohn, the chassan. You're still in Shana Shana, no?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get to that later on. But first, could you give us a little breakdown of like where you're from and what was your childhood like? Which is a jam-packed question.
I'm from Williamsburg. Williamsburg was a little different when I grew up. It was a lot more of a mixture of people. Now it's more all Satmar. Then we were all more Jews.
Weren't as many labels back then.
It's time. I wasn't, smart aleck comment, but, it was more mixture of people. And that's where I'm from. What my childhood was like. I was actually very withdrawn. I was very quiet. My mother is still surprised that I walk on stage and sing in front of a lot of people. And, I was actually, didn't have many friends. I was like a little bullied and stuff.
Why is that? Like you were more of a shy person? You were different?
I was a shy person. I still am a shy person. Why is that? There was no particular reason other than, Hashem runs a show and everything is an ingredient. I mean, all my experiences is what got me to where I am now. If I take away any of these experiences, I have to take away all the songs. So this is the picture, and Hashem is the greatest artist of all. So, we try not to have, so to speak, any regrets, or any, I wish I was X, Y, Z. This is what Hashem planned, and he planned my ups, he planned my downs.
That's really beautiful. So you were, I imagine you didn't look, obviously you're younger, so you didn't look how old you are now. Not that you look old, but I'm saying like you were Satmar, you were like full force Satmar?
Sure, yeah. I had the flat, as they call the super in Israel. I had the flat hat on Shabbos, the chont pot during the week, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, and you're one of 8 children, and your father was something with, he was a Heisbacher by the Satmar Rebbe.
He was a Heisbacher by the Satmar, yeah.
But not typical, meaning like longer. He
was in Toshin Yid Zayin for about 3 years. He was the first one that he kept around for a longer time, like about 3 years. And until then, they used to switch I think every month, if my memory serves me well.
And what did he do for parnasa? Did your family have money? Did your family not have money?
Not in particularly, but things always, he was a hustler. When I was a little kid, I remember him doing some general contracting. I remember one day going with him to a house and he was doing plumbing. He had a hotel in New Hampshire, Bethlehem, New Hampshire. He was also, he didn't necessarily do this for parnasa, but he was very busy with collecting money for people for Shabbos and Yom Tov. That's what he was always busy with. Actually, I remember one Erev Pesach, before Yom Tov, he was a very serious person. And like Erev Pesach, he would go bake matzahs, and he wouldn't talk from like 12 and on. He wouldn't talk. He was very busy. He went to the mikveh and then went to bake matzahs. And I remember one year, in the middle of matzahs, somebody came and said something to him. He told my brother, let's go. He'd left the matzahs. He had a Suburban. And they had this little warehouse, a kuri, they called it. And they kept the food there, but they did paklach. They had boxes to be delivered for Shabbos on Thursday nights. And he told my brother, let's go. They drove over there. He opened the trunk. He told my brother, everything, pack up the car. They drove somewhere in Long Island. He told my brother, take every box out of the car, put it quietly in front of the front door. By the last box, he said, now put the box down, knock on the door, and run back to the car. And my brother did that. And as he's knocking, the door opens up. And my brother looks back at my father. He's scared. And there's a woman open the door, and she motions to my father to come in. And so he comes in, and he tells her, I want to show you what you just did. They took them into the house, and the house was empty. She said, I don't have to make Pesach Day. I have nothing. There were holes in the wall. And, it was, I guess Hashem shows him to be the shliach for a person like that on Erev Pesach had nothing in the house yet. And, my father was very busy with doing that. That was his whole life, feeding others. He used to say, money, you can't take it with you, but you can send it ahead. So he lived for that.
That's really beautiful. So at what point did you, I guess, you mentioned you're getting bullied. What point did you escape or break free or maybe just turn that around?
Well, it was really after my bar mitzvah, I asked my parents that I wanted to leave and go to another yeshiva. And I first learned in Mount Kisco, a night yeshiva, for about a year. About 14, maybe 14 and a half, I was sent to England, to London, to yeshiva. And over there, being away from home, so life forced me, so to speak, to stand on my own 2 feet. And, so that did a lot, helped me, so to speak, grow up. And, made me somewhat independent,
Was it typical for someone from Satmar to go to yeshiva in London?
It was less frequent than now. There were a few other Bachrim from Satmar, from Williamsburg, but it was less frequent than today. And there are always individuals, there's some guys that went to Lipa yeshiva or whatever. After a year and a half, actually, in that yeshiva, I befriended a mashgiach of another yeshiva I used to learn. And it was a Hasidic yeshiva I was in. And I remember my father came once to visit. It was also happened once in a blue moon, because my father was from their Heim, as they call the old country. He sent me to yeshiva, he gave me $100 for his man. And, what do you need? I remember asking for Afikoman as a kid a watch. He said, why do you need a watch? We tell you when to wake up, when to go to sleep, when to go to eat lunch, when to learn. You don't need a watch. So, and when he came to that yeshiva, I gave gave a drasha of Reb Chaim Brisker, which was a very big, it was like an outtink, so to speak, to say in a Hasidic yeshiva. So after I befriended Mashgiach, I used to learn with him, and I joined that yeshiva, Rav Schlesinger, in London. So that was a very, it was threw my father off that I wanted to go to yeshiva, but I was there for another couple of years.
And what was your experience like ultimately? Like it was a good experience or?
Yeah. Which, the Litvish yeshiva or in general yeshivas?
I would say Litvish yeshiva, but I guess generally yeshivas, it doesn't.
No, I had a great time, especially in England. My experience there was better than in Nitra. But I suppose not about the yeshiva. It was my first chance at yeshiva coming from home. It was very uncomfortable for me to not be home, to settle in on my own in a dorm with a lot of bachurim. But, again, because I was shy, withdrawn, it's very hard for me to get used to, all of a sudden be with all these other people. And, I still sometimes have issues standing in line for food. It's uncomfortable. So in yeshiva, my first time was very uncomfortable. But later in England, it was very, I got more and more comfortable. And Lit yeshiva, I really liked, actually. I still do like learning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and we're going to get more into the learning. But so, like, was there any, like, negative experiences that you had with Rabbeim that, like, sticks with you now?
Not necessarily. I mean, like I said in the beginning, where, I felt like a lot of mashgichim or Rabbeim weren't enrolling me, rather preaching, do this and do that. How come, how come, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Rather than enrolling me, warm me up to want to learn, etc. But, it's also easier to give advice to the mashgiach. I don't know how to be a mashgiach myself. But, not necessarily, I'm sure everybody gets up in the morning and wants to be the positive influence and wants to do the right thing, so to speak. So, but not necessarily. Like I try to. I wish I can always live by that. But I've mentioned to you before. Like I believe. I've seen it as firm, and I believe everything is planned. Hashem planned everything. Every speckle of dust is where Hashem planned it. And every experience that we had, Hashem planned it. Mm-hmm. So, and wherever a mashgiach made me feel uncomfortable or didn't draw me to do the it's all how it's supposed to be.
Got it. Okay, fine. So after yeshiva, like where did you go? Because I meant based off of where you are now, I know there's a lot that happened in between, so I guess take us through that.
It happened so fast. I don't even know, because 1 minute I was learning and I was very involved. And the next, I was just going the complete opposite direction. And music always spoke to me. Music always meant everything. And somehow, what some would call maybe the wrong music, and definitely I remember having certain albums or cassettes at that time, not Jewish stuff, they got caught in yeshiva, whatever, and I think that had probably a lot of influence, but. Like I said, it was just, it happened very, very fast. And then actually, I went to Israel. I tried to go to a new yeshiva and I really wanted to have a fresh start. And I did it on my own because my father was very strong Satmar, was very anti-Israel because he had been in Israel. After the war, he was taken to Israel. They sent him to Israel. He tried to come here. And he was he was in a military in Israel, and then he snuck out of Israel, went back to Europe, and went back to a refugee camp, to a certain camp where he knew from there he'll get sent to America, and that's what happened. And then over here he connected himself to Satmar Rabbi. He went to the Satmar community, where they called him to be a Hosbacher, and so he was very against me going to Israel, but I didn't really ask him. I didn't discuss it And there were some people that had wronged me in yeshiva who felt bad, and they perhaps also tried to help me, and they enrolled me in a yeshiva in Israel. And but something again, very soon after, it just faded away. I got cold, and very quickly. I don't think I went after Sukkot, and I think Hanukkah time or before. I don't think it lasted longer than that. At that point, I was already coming back, and I just didn't go home anymore when I came back. It just all went a whole other direction, and I've thought about it many times. As we can hold ourselves back, we always rethink, if I only would have done this and I would have done that, maybe my life would have been different. But, it can't take away any details. Hashem plans everything. And it just went totally, complete opposite from there.
So, like, at that point, and to clarify, you could tell me if I'm, like, being too open, like, it sounds like you were no longer from or religious.
Right. And I went very fast. I didn't move from Williamsburg to Borough Park. I went to California, and
would you like, and it's maybe hard to like pinpoint it, but like, what was the emotion? Was it anger? Was it sadness? Was it curiosity?
It was perhaps all of the above. I was definitely lost, as well as dreams and hopes, and not realizing how to make any of these dreams or hopes happen, because I didn't have any tools. If I went to get a job, I was asked, where's your resume? Do you have a high school diploma? My English, I don't think is that great now.
I think it's good English now.
Well, let's just say back then, if there's any flaws, this was a long time ago.
Mm.
I definitely didn't speak any English, and it was very hard to communicate, to relate to people, to feel comfortable around people, because I was already withdrawn and shy. So, now that I knew or had a hint of a clue of how to manifest, how to make any of these dreams and hopes happen, but yeah, it was all of the above. It was hopes and dreams, and
What was your goal? Like, you wanted to be like a rock star, like, or you just wanted to get away?
I definitely wanted to always be music. Always want to be music. If I ever got enrolled in doing a multi-level marketing, or I did work in plumbing, and I had many different types of jobs.
You're a professor also?
I
No?
I taught Yiddish at Vassar College for a couple of semesters. I don't know if I was a professor. I had a professor parking spot.
That's a professor. That's considered a professor.
But I still don't have any education. So, professionally.
I think you should be called Professor Meilech Kohn. I think that would be
it definitely looks good on the resume.
Yeah. But like, to the point that, I did a little research, and I saw that like at a certain point in your life, you had tattoos, and you were like doing jobs that the Satmar Bacher probably wouldn't have ever dreamed about doing.
Right.
Did you ever think at a certain point that you're like, I am so far off that there's never coming back?
Sure. I didn't. I almost, at some point, I remember having to look at pictures like, am I dreaming? Was I really Satmar? How did I get here? It almost didn't make sense. And I was, even some people who always believed in me and stayed in touch with me, very few. I remember one of them saying, he realized that that's it for me. I'm never coming back. And you know what? The comeback happened maybe even faster. It happened also just as quick, the turnaround. And
how did that start?
The want to be, and the hunger, so to speak, for Hashem. Although I lived on the streets before, because like I said, I was in California. I didn't say, I kind of mentioned California. And but looking, I mentioned like the resume and all the stuff, things not working out, and I ended up on the streets, living on the streets,
like homeless.
Yeah, not like maybe pretending like I'm sleeping on the train tonight. There was just nowhere to go, and but I always spoke to Hashem. I always spoke to Hashem. I definitely remember some conversations that I've had, and and it happened.
What would you say to Hashem? You could reveal as much or as little as you want.
I remember saying one time, it was obviously inspired by other Hasidic Rebbe stories or Maises Tzadikim, which I always loved to read, I always read, and I felt that kept me always believing. And I remember saying one time, I said, Ribono Shel Olam, I'm lost, what do you, redeem my brothers and sisters, your people, put it all on me and erase me, and then we're good. And I definitely remember having that conversation.
That's a lot to say. That's basically asking to be wiped out for everyone else.
Yeah, in a way, it's one of the things, but it's kind of, it's asking to redeem everybody more than erasing me. And again, like I didn't come up with the idea, but either which way, it's speaking to Hashem. That's the main,
right.
the
Okay.
main thing. But coming back, like I said, happened just as quick. I don't even know how. I think I was just at a Sheva Brachas, and there was some songs being sung. I don't remember, and a lot of times, thinking of things that we, where am I? What did I do? What did I gain by all this? All my anger and all my rebelling and all my being smart aleck. What did I gain here? What did I accomplish? And it just happened from one minute to the next. Where I was actually married at the time, and we weren't religious. And it's just the hunger came over me. A few months later, a friend of mine asked me if I want to go to Uman. And I used to be a cantor for conservative shuls. It was something that I knew how to do because I grew up with chazanas, and I grew up, I loved music, so I was into nusach. My father was into nusach. It was one of the few things, we connect and spoke about with my father at times, especially Yom Noram. And so I got a job somehow. It was also hashgacha pratis, one job led to the next. Somebody heard me. Somebody hired me as a mashgiach. He opened a new hashgacha at a nursing home in Long Beach. And one Shabbos they needed about tefillah, and they asked me. So, and then an older person came over to me. I said, "What are you doing here? You should go 2 blocks away. There's an agent, and he'll find you a job for a chazan." So I went there. And sure enough, and although I wasn't religious, but obviously having grown up religious, and I always felt like if you daven in a real shul, or don't daven, that's the school I was from. And every year I would ask him, give me more Orthodox shuls. And he didn't know whether or not I was religious. And he said, Meilech, I know people more religious than you who do in these type of shows. Stop being such a rabbi. So, okay, but one year, like I said, I believed in Hashem. And one year I said, it's all Hashem. I'm quitting. I'm not doing it again. And Hashem sends. And I found a job in construction, managing construction sites. And I told the agent I'm not re-signing my contract. But then sure enough, and I didn't do it for a year. Sure enough, the next year, he starts calling me. There's a shul that wants to pay $50,000 a year. And this, only once a week. And you get 8 weeks vacation. And these type of shuls, they don't know Pesach, Sukkot, they know Shabbos. If Pesach is Tuesday, they're not going to come to shul.
Well, they definitely not. Shavuos is such like a random.
Yeah, for sure. But even Pesach, Sukkot, they're not.
Right, not as
it's out. Like I can still go anywhere if I want to go to my family. And he was not stopping to haggle me. He was calling every day. But I said, I'm just going to go. I'm not giving it any heart. I'm not going to practice before, whatever. And after work, I get dressed, whatever. I go and I get to this place, and it so did not look like a shul. And the crowd that was going to listen to me, and at the meeting, like whatever, few people, maybe 10 people actually, they had a few people there. Usually they didn't have that many. And this place had like 8-10 people. And it was mixed, and it felt like a church. It did not feel like a shul, the look, everything. And I did my few pieces. They asked me, and I went home. When I got home, I had gotten the job. It was the fastest I've gotten a response. And I got the job. And I called them right away. I sometimes like to chew things over for a day or two, take my time deciding. And that point, I don't, everything is Hashem. I don't know where it came from. I picked up the phone and I told them, I'm sorry to have wasted your time. My heart's not going to be in it, and I can't do it without heart. I am refusing the job. And the next day I went to work. I worked for a Hasidic guy, and I tell him the story. And he tells me, this year Hashem wants to hear you daven. And it was an odd response for me. Because usually you say you'll find more money and all these things. You find better jobs. And I felt like it's a message that he's telling me, and I'll know one day what it means. It was just an instant response to me. And then sure enough, the next few days, somebody says, hey, Uman. And I had some friends who've been going to Uman for 30 years now or more. And I said, wow, you know what? Every year I can't go because Rosh Hashanah is when I have to be at my job. But this year I'm not working. I'll go to Uman. And some great guy, Sully Singer, who used to give out tickets to Uman. So a few of my friends, none of which were religious, we decided to go to Uman. And actually the day I'm going to the airport in the morning, like I said, I was married at the time, my first wife, and she tells me I had a dream that they're gonna ask you to be chazan in Uman. I said I have no idea how Uman looks like, but an interesting dream. And in Uman we get there and take an apartment. After right before Daven Ma'ariv, if you ever come into my apartment and they tell me, we know you're a chazan, whatever, maybe you want to be about tefillah, maybe a minyan, and I'm at the time a long-haired, and I'm like, I didn't practice, and I'm smoking right now. It's not, and my voice is not in shape. I don't know. And let me think about it. And they leave the room, and I remember this year Hashem wants to hear you daven. And she had a dream. I said, that's what it means. I have to do it. I said, let's make a minyan. And actually, I still have people stopping me. They remember. Since then, I've davened almost every year in Oman. Smaller minyanim, bigger minyanim. And that was, and after that Oman, I came back from that. That's what, but before that, my way to Oman was already, something was brewing. You're already, something was
happening.
Something was brewing within me from, like I said, a Sheva Brachas that I was in. Something started making me, I had made my kitchen kosher at the time. I was struggling with it because my wife hadn't been from a religious background. So it was a struggle, but something had been brewing for about a half a year or so. But then after Uman, it became real full force, more and more and more. By Hanukkah, at that year, Hanukkah, where my ex-wife, now my ex-wife wasn't interested in becoming religious. And I said, if we're, I'm going in a certain direction, if something is pulling me, and, we got along, but we got to part ways.
Was that hard? Because, it's so hard to find a partner in life. And then, your goals are changing or shifting and their goals aren't. So you have to make that decision.
Yeah, it was very, of course, it was very hard. It took a lot of courage to bring it up, but there was no other choice, and I had some, help of some other people that I knew in the past, who, somebody that's running the JCL, Rabbi Chapnick in California, who I knew from back when I lived on the streets in California. So there was a few, Rabbi Yonah Landau, also from Hollywood, California, and they walked me through a lot of things, and I had the courage to bring it up.
Was it awkward for you to come back and people who were like, oh, you left, maybe they were mean about it then, no, you didn't want this, or were people a little more accepting?
It was awkward because even people that welcomed me, it comes across, although they mean well, but it comes across like, let me be makar of you, you nebuch, kind of thing. But they mean well.
Right.
But then again, a lot of our interpretations is our own interpretation. We are meaning-making machines, and we make put meaning to everything. But so yeah, it was. There were some people who were like, oh, we don't want to touch us. He's a Bal Tshuva, or like my Rebbe used to say, I wish they would call me Bal Tshuva, But so there was some awkwardness. But I'll say also. My father, when he started going in a wheelchair, this is before I became religious. I had long hair and I had tattoos, like I mentioned before. And he would ask me to take him to the mikveh. And, that was still very proud of my father, coming from, and must have been a great pain for him that his son has tattoos, that he's not religious. But he would ask me to take him to the mikveh. And he would have the abusha of being in a mikveh in Satmar with his son, a long-haired, tattooed guy. And he would ask me to get undressed in toivel. So, it's those things that brought me back.
Wow.
Also, that, that sacrifice, that humbleness, perhaps, the love.
It's really beautiful because like even you describing your father and like he sounds like a certain way. It's still in that moment where he's inviting you to go to the mikvah, and clearly everyone's going to see, and like clearly you were not religious, and for him to be like, no, I love you and I want you to take care of me and help me still, and I don't care. It doesn't make a difference how you look or.
Right, and I don't know if he meant that. I mean, he meant for me to help him, but he also I have nieces and nephews, and I had other siblings.
Right.
He could have gotten somebody else to take him. So whether it was to build a closeness with me, whether it was to get me to go to the mikveh, it was a great sacrifice on himself.
Wow. We'll be right back to this week's episode, but first I need to clarify. Everyone keeps on thanking me, and thank you very much for telling me that they love Sparks of a Nation. It's their favorite status. It's their favorite group. I have nothing to do with them aside for telling you how great they are in this ad, but I have nothing to do with them. We clearly have similar names. They for sure saw Inspiration for the Nation and they liked the name. So they chose the name Sparks of a Nation, which again, I have nothing to do with, but I'm a full supporter. I love what they're doing. They are finding the best moments in Klal Yisrael, that little glimpse of hope and that really nice act of kindness going on, or that beautiful Adira Torah event. They covered it exclusively. It was so good. So if you want an awesome WhatsApp group, WhatsApp status to look at when you're a little bored, you could text them at 323-792-0613. There will be a link in the show notes, and you will find your mind blown by how incredible the Jewish nation is, and you will see how awesome they are with Sparks of a Nation. I also want to mention, by the way, if you're listening to this, you can't see, but I'm wearing this really snazzy blazer, and kudos to my brother and Twillery, because on Kosher Money, they're doing ads from Twillery. But I have a Karsatov because they said, hey, you're part of this. We want to snazz you up also. So I have a bunch of clothing in the other room there that I will be wearing on future episodes. So Ma, don't worry, I'm going to look a lot better. But I want to give them a shout out. And by the way, if you're a Kosher Money or Living L'Chaim listener, you will get an amazing deal. You're going to get $18 off your first purchase. There's actually, I'm going to put a link in the bottom. You go to twilly.com/kosher money for $18 off when you spend $139. Well worth it. What I really like about them, I've been using and getting them for years. My mother literally got me for my birthday. She's like, what do you want? I said, I want a pair of pants from Twillery. I'm at the age where I want a pair of pants, but it's incredible. I've worn them. There's even been some nice, I was like, did you sleep in your pants? I'm like, yeah, they're that comfortable. They are machine washable, and they're just by far the most comfortable clothing I've ever had. Plus, you don't have to send them to cleaners, so save money on that, hence the Kosher Money connection. So go ahead and help support the people and companies who support us. Now back to this week's episode with Meilech. The best is yet to come. Do you look back and think a contribution to you coming back is the relationships that the people that called you and connected and stayed connected to you, or Or was it more your personal relationship with Hashem?
It's definitely my personal relationship with Hashem, but not to dismiss, we all need to come on to others. Because the leaving, so to speak, was also influence and impact of others. Mm-hmm. And therefore the comeback is also impact of others. So, of course, but at the same time, it has to do with my connection to Hashem, but a lot of times I remember, there's a lot more people like that because there's a lot more bachram and girls that go through all this type of stuff. Back then it was a lot less frequent. And there are those people like I mentioned Rabbeinu Landau before, him in particular I'm mentioning because I was at his house at Shabbos. I would come to the meal and they knew I just drove there. I'm going to a concert later, not too much seichel that I mentioned a lot of stuff or not a great filter on my mouth, mentioning stuff. So a lot of times they were aware of things, but their house was always welcome to me. The door was always open, and they always, they were always welcoming of me. And it's that love that brought me back a lot more than the threat of hell.
You're saying ahava played a bigger role in getting you than
yeah. I guess maybe that's why we say ahava v'yira.
Comes first.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know.
So
I didn't write the script.
What advice would you give to someone who was wronged by someone on whatever level, but enough for them to say like, I'm done with Yiddishkeit, being that, you had your challenges, but then you came back. Like, how did you feel about those that you feel were, I guess, a part of the reason that you just got so turned off from Yiddishkeit? What advice would you have for someone?
I'll tell you a story that I'm remembering now. As a friend of mine who's not alive anymore, was a childhood friend, and we went to Cheder together, and he called me up one day and he said, I saw this and this person who we went to school with. I just saw this and this person, and that person was the leader of the class, and they were writing me almost all my childhood. And that person, as far as I know, has a kid that's blind. So my friend is telling me, I just saw this guy, and I told him, you have a kid that's blind. You ever called Meilech to ask Mechila to apologize? He said, no. He says, you have a blind kid. You never did that? And so this friend is calling me. He says, be aware this guy is going to call you in the next few days. Sure enough, the guy calls me. And he asked me if I forgive him. I said, listen, he pushed someone down the stairs. He broke his leg. And you're calling him up to apologize. Are you going to apologize every winter when his legs hurt him, when it's raining or cold? I said, I need to think about it. Give me a little while. And I don't know how long I waited, maybe a day, maybe an hour, I don't remember, maybe 2 days. But I called him back and I said, listen, I read I remember a Vart that the story of Asar Ruga Malchus happened because of the brothers that sold Yosef. And if I remember correctly, the Orach Chaim HaKodesh says, but they apologized. So why did they? So he says that they apologized. And he said Hashem does everything. But he didn't say the word Amoichlio. So I told him, listen, my friend, you didn't do anything. We were all kids. So obviously Hashem does everything, and he wanted it that way. But I forgive you. And so, and it's that I would say takes a lot of strength, because it still takes strength for me now, this moment when I said it, to let it go and not just forgive that person and love that person, so to speak, if I'm allowed to say Hashem. I once said, my Rebbe said, Hashem gave me the machshava. I remember walking the streets of Yerushalayim and I said, Ribbon Shalom, I don't want to walk a 2nd Avenue. My father wants to walk on 3rd Avenue. I walk on 3rd Avenue. I love you. Let's walk on 3rd Avenue. So Rabban Shalom, I would change every detail of my life. But you want it this way? Ni shmais kol chai. Let it be this way. And so, anybody that wronged me or whoever we're talking about to say it to, it's, if you realize that it's Hashem's plan and it's all ingredients to get you to the next place. And so take it with a grain of salt. This is a hard course you signed up for, but the course is going to be over and you'll get your certificate. I wish we could say a lot more nicer. There's a great birthday cake at the end of this thing, but but this is what's going to get you to the next place, and it's all Hard Knocks University.
So what's very interesting about you, with this whole interview so far, and we didn't even talk too much about the music. We spoke about the influence it had on you, but I don't know the history of Jewish artists, but at the age that you were, I don't know, was it 47, 48, that you're, I know you were in the music industry, but VeUhavata was I don't even remember a song being as popular as that song. So could you take me through that experience of just getting rocketed straight up?
Yeah, it's very, it happened I was in my mid-40s, second half, 46 maybe. First I'll say that, my Rebbe, who I was very close with, Rav Mentor, was a big tzaddik, and I had the honor, the schus of, I was a Shabbos guest. He wouldn't have Kabbalah's call on Shabbos, and he just wanted me to come. And he sent a message to his Rebbetzin to start inviting me for Shabbos. None of it makes any sense to me, but Hashem runs the show, and he would hold my hand, and he'd Tzaddik, I love you. He spoke Yiddish. I love you. He apologized. You miracle me all the time. Anyway, so when Hashem gifted me with a song VeUhavata, and all my life I was musical, and if I wanted to remember something, I would make a song of it. I still have my friend's code to get into his house is a song to me. That's how I remember to get in. And so I told him on Shabbos, I wanted to always know the feeling of recording my own song, because I used to sing backup vocals on Shweki album or different albums I've done. They called me a friend through a friend, knew I liked to sing. And so, but I wanted to know the feeling of recording my own song. So anyway, so I had the song VeUhavata, and a studio was next door to the kollel. And that's kind of how it happened, and it went viral. So Shabbos, I told my Rebbe, Hashem gifted me with a song VeUhavata, and it went viral. And I asked him for a bracha to have more matanas like that. And he used to always talk about Havas Yisrael, and he would say, one time my Rebbe called him, and he said they want to talk to him, and he said, only if I could bring my chavrusa Meilech. And then he said in the conversation, he told Tzahar Rebbe, he told it to other tzaddikim, why do we say Baruch Atah Hashem B'nei Yerushalayim? If you don't make shalom, it's a bracha levatala. He's not coming. Like I say, Ani Ma'amad B'tchiyas HaMesim, he says Be'eshet Rotza in Ma'abora, when Hashem will want. But Mashiach, he says Kol Yom, he's waiting. What is he waiting for? He's waiting for us to love each other. And so that was always his thing. And so I asked him for a bracha for more matanas like that. He said, if you write a song about a Havas Yisrael, you'll be matzliach. And then this song kind of came to me while I was always pondering which song he means, because he asked me once to write different words. And for the song Golus Golus, the call of a song. And actually in the song VeUhavata, I don't mean to plug the video.
No, sure.
In the beginning, I play guitar and I sing a song. And that's a song that I wrote the words that he asked me to write to the song that we used to sing at the Shabbos table. And so he told me, and so I was wondering, does he mean this song? Does he mean a different song? And one Motzei Shabbos of a Shev Brachos of my niece, which was in Tosh. And I'm going to sleep, and I'm in bed, and I can't fall asleep, and my head is thinking song. And the song Golas Golas, whatever Golas Golas is in my head, and I'm after a mean solo in my machshava, just the song came VeUhavata, the whole thing. There might have been another in there, and I had to, force myself to open my eyes, get out of bed, record it, so I could go to sleep, and that's how the song came. And then, and so it was always. It wasn't in that sense. It wasn't a surprise. After it became like so big, I wasn't surprised anymore because I realized my Rebbe gave me a bracha, and he was a big Ohev Yisrael, and he was tzaddik. I mean, just Ahavas Yisrael. I guess I don't have any kids yet, but I'm sure I could relate to the thought that anybody that has kids, all they want is their kids to get along. And I'm sure Hashem, that's all Hashem wants from us. So, any Ohev Yisrael, it's the greatest, the greatest thing. And but it wasn't a major surprise. It was almost shocking. I wouldn't. In the beginning, I would go to big shows, and I just didn't know what. Like the song of Miyadea came to me at a place like Yeshiva called me to sing, and I was so uncomfortable because I was shy, and I'm like, what do you want from me? And after singing the song, I sing in Hafachu, and it was right before Purim, and this Rosh Yeshiva was talking, and anyways, that's when the song Miyadea came to me, not even thinking about that as a message to myself, why I'm here. I was just tuning out, and he was talking about the Megillah, and that's the moment that the song came to me. But I mean, I was just tuning out because I was uncomfortable. But the whole, so many shows. I look back some old videos where I'm at I'm just uncomfortable. I go my bottle of water. I wasn't prepared. I'm going on a big show. It was all afterwards. It was a surprise to me that I was such a big show, but it was all very. It was very surprising, and I'm still surprised that when people, whenever yesterday I was someplace or whatever, people sing to me VeUhavata or comment about it, and these days I think people forget stuff very quickly. There's the new song, the next, and I'm like, this is 8 years ago. You're still singing. It's a major, and the only thing that I could make sense to, like I said, that's what Hashem wants. And that's why he's making this message stick around, because that's all he wants us is to get along.
It's a great song, and it got a lot of attention as it totally deserved. Do you still get uncomfortable or shy by concerts, or if you're singing in front of others, or have you gotten more used to it?
You get more used to it, but I'm still shy. I still have to work on myself.
Is this interview, I'm getting a little meta here, is this difficult for you, or one-on-one conversations easier?
One-on-one conversation is easier. If there were a lot of
Kohn?
Oh, hello.
My brother Eli is interrupting.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, totally
In the
interrupt.
middle of like a Heitziger moment.
No, he's about to
You
say
mama
something.
ruined it.
Your mom has changed my life. Beautiful.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
It's much nicer to meet you.
Thank you.
It's his office, so I guess we have to go with him interrupting every
No,
day.
it's fine. It's fine. One-on-one is always easier. So even if there were a lot of people, because I'm talking one-on-one and I could kind of tune out. But when it's speaking to 1,000 people at once, it's a little the fear factor.
Are your parents, your mother, surprised that you were this little shy kid and now you're performing in front of thousands? It's so ironic.
Sure, I'm the shyest of all my siblings, so she's very surprised. she'll still say it to people that she's very surprised that out of all my siblings, or in general, that this is happening to me.
I got to bring this up because I think it was your producer, Gershi Schwartz, who's the Allo.
Hello.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I learned in England.
Yeah, okay.
And so the little English that I knew at the time as a teenager was a lot I learned in England because I was there from about 14 till 17, 18. So when I came to the studio, and he's an English bloke, so I was imitating his accent, and I was talking like this the whole time. And so he was recording me. He was recording a lot of stuff. And then later he decided to put it in. It wasn't. And then as a matter of fact, I remember him sending me VeUhavata, and I was walking home to my apartment with a friend of mine listening to it. And this friend tells me, take out the Elo, nobody will take you serious. I said, listen, I don't want to take myself serious. I'm all of a sudden going to start thinking, I'm Mordechai ben David. Let's leave it in there. So I'll be like, know that it's not going anywhere. So later, I'm not setting myself up for failure. And that's what everybody still tells me, Elo.
Right.
But it was Gershie's idea.
That's so funny. It kind of like became your catchphrase. So it's pretty cool that he thought of it. Like I would buy merch with like your face and the word Elo on it, like a cap or a t-shirt. I totally will get that. So I still have a few more questions about just your journey, but I definitely want to talk about upcoming. Like what's like right now? Like, are you producing new music? Are you doing things the way you've done it before? What are you guys up to? What are you brewing?
Well, actually, I've been working on this album. I've been working on songs for 4 or 5 years. I mean, recording, and I'm always kind of working on songs. There's always ideas in the works, and recording snippets, and sometimes it grows, and sometimes I connect two little things that came to me different times. And I have this album, which, as long as it takes, I mean, the longer time goes on, I keep adding to it. So now it's up to 13 songs. And I better finish it quick before it becomes 15. So I'm almost at this point working on 2 albums. One of which, because I want to close it up, so it's going to be 13, and the rest will just go to the next one. And also, while during Corona, especially, I was in Israel, and we stayed put for a while, and I was living in Bad Ayin. So I befriended this great guitarist, Amit Yitzchak, who's a guitarist for Ishai Rivo, Shuli Rand, another great musician, David Ada, a Tunisian musician. They're both great, amazing musicians, and really good Yidden. Seriously, amazing. At any rate, so we worked on about 9 songs together, and since I've decided to add, another 4 songs. And so I'm hoping really to, I'm still closing up, because, we're all perfectionists, because once it's out. And we're just trying to perfect it, but I'm hoping somewhere between Shavuos and Shabbos Nachmu.
You have like a certain interesting release, different than like other albums. You're doing like some form of, and you could correct me if I'm like making a mistake, like it's like a GoFundMe, like someone could donate to help complete it? Like, how's it working?
Well, it has a lot to do with, number one, I know that's number one, but number one, how I'm going to mention it. Well, there is, people buy albums less these days, and things cost a tremendous amount of money. I mean, it's really a lot of money. And then also, like I said, working on, and we want to do a few videos, and definitely want to do a tour of some sort. And as well as I'm working already on the next one. So we're doing some sort of campaign, whatever cause match. We're hoping to, we kind of put it out there somewhat to feel out, but I'm hoping the nenext few days, mamash, and tomorrow or Monday, I'm not sure, to release some sort of video about this campaign. And the thing is that I realized that I'm walking on the streets, and sometimes, a lot of times, people come over and hug me. And it can be somebody without a kippah and somebody with a shtreimel. I've had so many people of different walks of life and in different places in the world. And at the beginning, like when you asked me before, was I shocked by VeUhavata? I was sometimes more shocked that people come over to me and feel like they know me so well. Like, what is this? Am I giving up that aura? And then I realized that we all listen to music. Music is very personal to us, especially when we go through emotional times, happy or sad, tough times. And I realized that the person feels like I've walked with them during that process. I might not know about it, but they feel, that song is what walked them, because I know it happened to me as well with different songs and singers. And so, and kind of the message is that, you do podcasts, your brother does something else, that guy does real estate, that guy's a plumber. He doesn't necessarily have a chance to do that. And a lot of people really would love to be able to. I know on a cloudy day, there's somebody in Australia that I might never meet. He's getting chizik, and that's what gives me chizik on a sad day, so to speak, walking on the streets. I can be mechazik myself. I might not feel so great right now, but I know through Hashem's help, I've helped someone else go through a tough time, and that gives me a little chizik. And this campaign, of course, it's helping me bring out this music, but it's an opportunity for your average guy to have that feeling that he was mechazik people that he doesn't even know. And by contributing to this campaign, he's helping music come out. And, as I heard from people who go bigger chaylam or volunteer for Chai Lifeline, that music for a chayla and everybody, it does an amazing, gives joy to people's lives. And it's an opportunity for everybody to contribute that, and they won't even be bothered by selfies on the street.
Okay, that's really beautiful, and we'll definitely have a link in the show notes for people to contribute and make this album the reality that it deserves. I didn't get a sneak peek, not yet. Maybe after you guys will give me a little sneak peek, because 13 songs is that's a lot, and I'm sure it's great. Something I wanted to bring up is that you're very into shechita. You're a sheichet.
I learned shechita. I never wanted to do it for a living. I learned shechita because I'm a Kohen, and I know Mashiach is coming in a second now, and I know we'll be taught everything anew. But I kind of wanted to. I felt like I want to, for my part, kind of get somewhat ready.
It's so practical. Like, so many people are like, Mashiach's coming, and they're like, okay, what are you doing? I don't know, I'll figure it out. But like, realistically, if Mashiach is really coming, there's a lot of karbanos and.
Yeah, I definitely had that thought, but I don't know how realistic that thought is. There's many great shachtim. It's been a long gullus, and there's so many kahanim and shachtim and way more learned people than myself that, they will probably get first a crack at the knife, so to speak. But, and like I said, I think we'll be taught everything. But yes, it was that type of relatedness that I wanted to do, that Mashiach is coming. And it was more for myself to have that practice. Mashiach is coming, I'm going to learn to, something for that. But I felt like, hey, if I go to I wanted to be able to, when I eventually have kids, and I can buy a chicken or two and take my kids out for a picnic, shecht and barbecue, or at home, or like I've heard, like where I learned shechita, his father was a taimani, and he would tell me stories how his father, they would bring home a sheep, a yontiv morning, they would shecht it, clean it in the bathtub, put it on a stove or whatever, go daven, learn, do this and that, and the next thing, and then 1:00 we have lunch with this fresh shechted sheep. And I thought it was a great experience, But I also, to be a sheichet, you have to, besides your shemaim and stuff, halacha-wise, you have to at least know certain halachas you have to be aware of all the time. Like in the middle of the night, somebody wakes up, a sheichet, he's got to be able to answer 5-6 things right away. And so, I think you have to go over the halachas every 30 days. So I don't know if I could truly shecht now, but I'd love to. And I don't want to do it for a living. I never wanted to. It's a great achrayas, but it's an amazing feeling, and it doesn't take that much to learn it. You have to work on preparing a knife and checking a knife, but it's an amazing feeling. I've shechted my own. Not on my own with my chavrusa. I don't want to do it alone. But Yom Kippur, I did kaparas, and I came home and I shechted my chicken. It's a great experience, and I feel like I dove into my Yiddishkeit.
It's interesting and fascinating, and also that I heard that you're very into learning. You love learning.
Yeah.
It's just, do people find that surprising about you? Because like they see you and they're like, I don't know, maybe you're not into, I don't know, like.
I don't know. I never asked.
Like which Like, what do you like learning? I mean, there's so
I
much.
like learning Gemara a lot. Yeah.
Did you
The
always,
sugyas,
or
I
you
like
got
learning-
more into it when you came back?
No, there were tkufas in yeshiva, and the literature yeshiva, I learned a lot how to learn. And that literature, Schlesinger, like I said, that mashgiach that I met before, Meir Schlesinger, he has a kind of yeshiva in Monsey, and I believe now, so I heard. And, I started learning with him, Reb Chaim Brisker, when I was in Teres Chesed, yeshiva, Hasidic yeshiva in London. And from him, that was the beginning where I started really liking to learn.
Out of the 613 mitzvahs, is there one mitzvah? I have a feeling that you're going to say an answer. Is there one mitzvah that you like or you feel closer to than the other mitzvahs?
To not drag out the thought process, I'm going to answer quick. Yesterday I had an opportunity to do Shlich HaKen, and it was very interesting and tricky because I remember there's a Gemara, right? If you, Hamarachem El Kan Tzipor, right? Is somebody like, you think you're going to be a bigger Baal Rachem than Hashem. So that one, it threw me off because I felt like my human reaction is first to have pity, and I had to fight that because I was like, En Rachem K'mo Hamarachem. Hashem created Rachmanas. You're not going to, and so that I'm going to answer that one right away.
Okay, that's a good answer. Yeah, you're reminding me, and I think you'll find this particularly interesting. Rabbi Aryeh Leibowitz got a shaila that they basically, there was a sick person in the community, and they wanted, I think, cancer, and they wanted to give him the opportunity to do Shluch HaKan because it's a school for a longer life. And his mother found out, and she's like, "No, you're not doing it. It's cruel to the animal." And it was big shaila because these are the two mitzvahs: listening to your parents, and then Shluch HaKan, they both give you a longer life. What should you do? Just interesting shaila. I don't know. It just reminded me of that. If there was one person from history or one person who's from recent history but no longer alive that you could spend an hour with, who do you spend that time with?
Well, I have to quickly again answer. I'll say Rabbi Elimeilech because as a grandkid of his, I feel like I think all his grandkids feel a very deep connection. I mean, there's so many I want to say about Shem Tov. There's so many. Reb Shaila, who my family was very close with, from Kerstir. My grandfather remembered him and he spoke about him a lot. He was by him. And anyways, I could say so many about Ditchever. I'll say Rabbi Elimeilech Lezhansk.
I assume you've been to Lezhansk multiple times.
When I was a bacher, my parents took me when I was about 14, 15. And they say that he said whoever will come to his yurt site, at his grave site, will not die without teshuva. I remember coming back to England and people tell me, you're going to live long.
Yeah.
Little did they know that I do Shluch HaKan.
Right, exactly. What's the worst advice you've ever received?
Oof. To try drugs.
Okay. And I'm. How are you doing with that now?
I'm clean.
Was it hard to just get out of it?
Pendridge drugs, yeah, sure. I mean, I also had an accident when I think on my 19th birthday, I worked in a warehouse in Manhattan. I fell down an elevator shaft. And so having kind of, broken, definitely injured, I'm not going to get into details, back and whatnot, affected my body. It was easy for me when I go to doctors to get pills and having pain, whatever. So it was hard to get off those pills. It was also a reason I went to Israel because in Israel, they give you, at least then, they give you less. They're not as quick to give you pain medication.
Oh, interesting.
And that was a part of the reason I went also to Israel. But yeah, I mean, it's Mamash Hashem's help. I don't know, it doesn't even make sense how I got off it, how I had the seichel, how to do, I kind of weaned myself off and I started skipping, taking smaller, breaking my pills in half and then waiting a little bit and then skipping a day until one day I realized that I skipped 2 days. It was actually Shavuos. I realized, wait, I skipped 2 days. Then in that case, I don't need it. And I don't know, it doesn't even make sense that
it's so interesting because a lot of times people hit rock bottom. That's what gets them. But for you, it sounds like more gradual.
I was all rock bottom.
You always
No, but I wanted to. I remember visiting Israel, and somebody said he has a headache, and my friend said to him, "Why don't you take a pill? All you Americans have pills for everything." And it was like, oh, it's so embarrassing. It's so true. What's with us? And it started getting me to think about back off with all these pills, and where is it taking me? I'm just going from pill to pill, from drug to drug, and I didn't want that. I didn't want my life to be like that.
It's such a good mindset. Whenever anyone's like stuck in whatever they're busy with, that they don't want it. Like, such a good way of like getting out of it is saying like, that's not who I want to be. That's not who I really am. It's not easy, but I'm saying that mindset is so smart, because you're like, okay, who do I actually want to be? And you're like, my future is not with someone using those substances or whatnot.
Right. I mean, also, when you get caught up in it, and you think, man, it's all great. I'm doing fine. It's really after you stop, and after you get clearer and clearer, and you realize that I'm sure every individual, I have so much to give, so much to offer. Life has to offer to me. I don't need that. It's a fake idea, a fake illusion. It's a fake illusion. It's like good attentive, but it's a fake reality. It's not what's real. And
yeah, it's so funny, because like I think so many times in life, those moments where like you quickly like cut the line for the pleasure, like it doesn't substantially really last. And like as hard as real life is with reality and not taking substances or just shortcuts, it's maybe harder, but the bigger picture, like that deeper connection to like really living and enjoying is there.
Right. And to yourself, you realize more of yourself, and you appreciate yourself more, because all that, it's just repetitive. It's also what I had to tell myself whether I saw some other people on drugs, or a craving of myself that I myself had, and you realize, I remember that time we're laughing, and you're like, yeah, laughing what? It's not real. It's just an illusion that I think I had such a great time then. I didn't, and if I did, I can just as well have a great time now. I don't need that. It's
now
just that little moment that when I think, if I wait it out, if I push it off 5 hours, I'll think differently in 5 hours.
Incredible. Okay, so Hashem should give you the strength to continue and never need drugs again.
Amen.
And now you get high on the VeUhavata.
Yeah, with him.
Now you get high with the VeUhavata. Okay, you'll trademark that. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Oof. Embrace yourself. Accept and embrace yourself. Love yourself.
Okay, that's very nice. Okay, before I ask my last question, is there a story that either happened to you or you heard that really gives you strength, that really inspires you? It could be that it happened to you in your life. It could be that you read it. It could be that you heard it.
I've heard from a Holocaust survivor who was, when they came out, and there was a line. The American soldiers had like trays for some food and chocolate, and everybody came and grabbed a tray and went. And this guy said he picked up 2 right away, and he walked away. And there was another person who either couldn't make the line, or they wouldn't let him in the line, and he begged him for some food, and he gave that guy a tray. And I don't know, that story came to mind, and it was always very inspiring to me. And I'll tell you, well, my father, I heard at the funeral. I kind of knew the story, but I heard it at his funeral from his brother, who was. My father was in a camp, and they told people outside in the next town that if people of the camp, that they're very sick, and if somebody comes, they should scream for help, call the cops, I guess. And his brother, my father was short and stocky, he's very, very strong. His brother was tall and skinny, very weak. And my father, and he saw his brother was like fading away. So he dug a hole under the fence and he crawled to the next town. He went into the first house, and there was an older woman, and with a sitting at a table. There was a bread, and there was a knife. And she started screaming. So he grabbed the knife and, whatever, he asked her nicely to be quiet. And he took the bread. He backed out of the house and he crawled back to camp. And he fed his brother very small pieces at a time, realizing that knowing that he shouldn't take big bites. And then one day we're on the death march afterwards, on the way out of the camp, he carried his brother for 4 days on his shoulder. It's to me, it was an inspiring story, and in honor of my father, to speak as he's Nehene Meziv Ashchina. It's an inspiring story, and I want to give that to him.
It's very beautiful.
And his brother said this story at my father's funeral, so I trust the story. I mean, I heard it from my father. The few stories that he told me he didn't speak much of the Holocaust. He couldn't talk about it. He was very emotional. But at any rate, I definitely trusted, having heard it from both parties at the story, and that was always very, at least emotionally inspiring to me. I don't know what it inspires me to go do right now, but hopefully it all inspires us to just do for others. Just give of ourselves away for others. Because as Reb Shlomo's Willer, I mentioned it in the campaign. Actually, keeps coming up in my head. Because one of my rabbis, Rav Kleinerman, the big tzaddik, Rav Abba Kleinerman, in Yerushalayim, told me a lot of times. Reb Shlomo's Willer said, he said it in Yiddish, Reb Shlomo's Willer said, 1 step for someone else is 1,000 steps for yourself. So, doing for others, obviously, goes more than just one person, because all the generations that person will bring, as well as the people that person will affect, just goes a long way.
That's really beautiful. So I'm going to end off with this last question. There's a lot of Jewish singers out there. There's a lot of singers out there, but I think your charm, one of your charms, is that you're. I wouldn't even consider you a singer. I would say you're an artist. And it's so interesting how you really develop who you are and you put that into your music. And I mean, even just your songs, and where like there's music in the background and you're just like talking, like even like those ideas, like what advice would you have for someone? I think in certain ways we're all an artist in some way, right? Like Hashem's the greatest artist, like you said, and we're all some form of artist. Like what's the key to finding our true art?
I remember throughout my life at some point, I don't know where I got this. Maybe it's from someone else. Maybe it's just divine inclination. Sometimes you have to make a decision, and I don't know which one to decide. Both of them look good. And so I just pretend I decide on one. And I see how that makes me feel inside immediately. And many, many times I find great clarity in that, because while I think I might want to do one thing, I realize when I tell myself I decided on that one, it doesn't make me feel as good as the other decision. And then I realize that it's the other decision that I really want to make. And so it's what I want to, it's that feeling that I'll get when I will do the art that is my calling, will just make me feel tremendously content.
Really beautiful. Okay, Professor Meilech, thank you very much for coming out and doing this.
Thanks. I feel like I got my professorship today.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Nice to take this course with you.
Yes, thank you. You passed. Flying colors. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this week's episode. I really enjoyed it. And if anyone feels like they got inspired from this, go ahead and please share this episode with friends and family and loved ones, and maybe even enemies. Maybe this is the connection to bring that achdus out there. And if you got this far in the episode, I'm looking out there. I want you to use the code word amazing. I saw the people last week use the word powerful with Rabbi D. I saw it and I commented. So now I want you to use the word amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And any other comments that you want to share on YouTube with us, maybe other guests you want us to see, and want us to talk to. But people like Meilech didn't have it easy, and they don't shy away, and I respect him for that. I respect him. It was funny, like before the interview, he's like, whatever you want to talk about, it's fine. And there's obviously a list of like very challenging things. He's like, Yaakov, I'm an open book. Let's discuss it. If it help people in Klal Yisrael, let's talk about it. And I find that very inspiring. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm signing off. Go ahead and be inspirational. L'chaim. Living L'chaim.